Have you ever contemplated the possibility that an individual harbored feelings for you yet chose to remain silent? Have you observed an unspoken depth in their eyes, as though the silence itself conveyed a truth they were reluctant to acknowledge? It may be that the absence lies not in the words themselves, but rather in the internal authorization to articulate them. What if what you perceive as indifference is, in fact, a manifestation of fear? Not merely a fear, but one that originates from the unconscious, molded by ancient scars of which they remain unaware. One is on the verge of entering a realm where affection is present yet remains unexpressed. The inquiry at hand is not whether they harbor feelings for you, but rather the reasons behind their inability to acknowledge such sentiments. The reality, which often remains unarticulated, is that unexpressed affection does not signify weakness. Rather, it represents a form of psychological confinement. It is a sensation of being ensnared between the longing to disclose oneself and the anxiety of potential rejection. There exist individuals who experience love with such depth and intensity that they find themselves unable to articulate the nature of their feelings. They favor silence to avoid the potential for devastation and choose distance to evade emotional vulnerability. However, may I inquire as to the reason behind this? What transpired in the depths of time and the human spirit to transform love into a concealed matter? Carl Jung articulated that that which remains unconscious manifests itself as fate, and it is possible that this is the experience you are currently encountering. This is not a narrative centered on romance. Rather, it serves as a reflective exploration of the psyche. He is not evading your presence. Rather, he is escaping from his own self. He is not cold. Rather, he is ensnared within the confines of his own shadows. Each gesture of confusion, every moment of interrupted intimacy, and every glance that extends for a fraction too long, all serve as a symbolic language he articulates through his silence. However, are you familiar with the art of listening to silence? There exists a concealed reality behind ambiguous behavior, a nuanced interplay of proximity and withdrawal, a recurring cycle. One experiences a profound sense of being at the core of something significantly more substantial than it may initially appear. What if he is assessing his own boundaries? What if, each day, he stands beside you, not in opposition, but rather in a struggle against an intangible presence that hinders his ability to communicate freely? This narrative transcends the boundaries of a mere love story. We are encountering an archetype, the wounded lover. A gentleman caught in the conflict between the desire to love and the necessity to safeguard, achieving completeness only when he permits himself to embrace vulnerability. However, one must exercise caution, for there exists an aspect that has yet to be disclosed, a particular, nuanced indication that nearly escapes the notice of most, yet consistently unveils when an individual harbors affection but is hesitant to express it. This sign transforms doubt into certainty. It is nearer than one might anticipate. However, caution is advised. Should you blink or overlook even a single second of this video, you may miss it entirely, for at times, the essence of comprehending an individual is concealed in the most unexpected places. He never articulated it verbally. There are no assurances, no proclamations, and no verbal expressions of love. However, there exists an element in his actions that appears to transcend the capacity of words to convey. It becomes apparent even when one attempts to disregard it. He recalls minor details, aspects that even you may have overlooked. The manner in which one grips their cup during moments of anxiety. The musical piece that you permitted to play for a duration of 5 minutes prior to altering it. The identity of the colleague who caused you to experience tears on an otherwise typical day. What is the reason for his recollection? Furthermore, what is it that renders that action more impactful than any eloquent expressions articulated by an individual who speaks merely for the sake of conversation? It is a well-established notion that the unconscious does not deceive. Carl Jung asserted that all that is meaningful, even when rejected by rational thought, will ultimately find a means to manifest itself. It is possible that this is what you are experiencing. Affection exists within the fissures, in the intervals, between his actions and the emotions he chooses to suppress. Although he does not explicitly express it, his concern is evident. He does not openly declare it. However, he observes attentively. It is impossible to disregard the notion that a message is conveyed within the silence. A desire for authenticity, sincerity, and genuine expression. At that moment, a sense of obscurity envelopes one's inner self, as it appears that he possesses an understanding of you that is not accessible to all. This occurrence, in and of itself, is already too intimate to be regarded as mere coincidence. However, the conflict resides here. If he experiences such profound emotions, why does he refrain from expressing them verbally? What is the reason for his transformation of affection into code? It is possible that, for him, love represents a perilous domain, a labyrinth that is more daunting to navigate than to merely observe from a distance. For certain individuals, the act of loving is akin to making contact with a wound. It is the potential for re-experiencing suppressed anguish. He has come to understand, albeit with considerable difficulty, that revealing one's emotions entails embracing vulnerability. For an individual who has been profoundly affected by vulnerability, it resembles traversing a battlefield in a state of complete exposure. He harbors his affection in silence, akin to an individual cradling something invaluable between their fingers, yet apprehensive of losing it through the act of naming. Nevertheless, regardless of his attempts to evade verbal expression, his unconscious consistently reveals his true sentiments. He recalls your fondness for bread each time he sends that message precisely when you are experiencing a moment of distress, without the need for you to express anything verbally. Each time he attentively listens to what appears to be a mere passing remark, he retains it as though he is documenting a confidential blueprint. He is not merely listening to you. He is analyzing you, observing you quietly. This particular form of scrutiny distinctly uncovers that which he himself endeavors to conceal. One who lacks emotional perception does not observe in such a manner. One who does not love tends to forget with greater ease. However, does he genuinely comprehend that he is in love, or is he merely experiencing its effects without identifying the underlying cause? There exists a profound significance in the act of recalling details, one that surpasses mere logic and unveils the essence of the soul in moments of solitude. Although he may not have explicitly stated that he misses you, one must consider why he is familiar with the name of your childhood dog. What prompts him to observe alterations in the manner in which you style your hair? The focus is not on memory. Rather, it pertains to presence. The matter pertains to an affection that permeates daily existence in an imperceptible yet unavoidable manner, suggesting that, at a fundamental level, he has already acknowledged the love. However, he remains uncertain about how to navigate this reality. At this moment, you find yourself contemplating a profound uncertainty. Is this expression of care indicative of love, or is it merely an act of kindness? However, since when has kindness been attributed such significance? Since when does a mere gesture evoke such a profound response, causing one's heart to race and destabilizing one's sense of certainty? One experiences it. This feeling alters everything, regardless of his efforts to conceal, disguise, or evade it. Genuine love is evident in its manifestations, even if it is presented as a cup of coffee prepared precisely to your preference. Even if it is reflected in the tone of his voice when he inquires whether you had a restful night. Even if it is merely the manner in which he recalls. There consistently exists a profound revelation in those subtle instances when he exhibits jealousy. It is not the possessive, overt, immature form of jealousy. Rather, it is the type that subtly infiltrates the realm of reason, manifesting in averted gazes, prolonged silences, and seemingly casual inquiries that, upon closer examination, reveal an underlying tension. He may assert that all is well. It is possible that he feigns indifference. However, his physique discloses what his words endeavor to conceal. The unconscious operates prior to the onset of censorship. When the apprehension of losing a cherished individual prevails, control is relinquished, regardless of one's efforts to maintain it. You reference another individual, and he responds with laughter. However, his gaze does not accompany his amusement. You reference a message you received, and he promptly diverts the conversation to another topic. It is not a matter of anger. This is not an accusation. It is a source of discomfort. a nuanced tension reminiscent of an individual who perceives an indistinct threat. He perceives the risk, the possibility that another individual may perceive in you what he perceives, the possibility that an individual may assume the position he claims to reject. It is within that realm, situated between his pretense and his apprehensions, that the truth resides. Jealousy is not typically directed towards matters of little significance. No individual harbors a fear of losing that which they do not cherish, not even in silence. This represents a form of jealousy that remains unspoken, as it is seldom acknowledged. It is not permitted to be displayed, perhaps not even to himself, yet he is visibly shaken. That discomfort conveys a message more profound than any official statement. At that juncture, one comes to the understanding that he is emotionally invested, despite the hindrances posed by pride, insecurity, or past traumas that prevent him from expressing himself openly. Each instance in which he attempts to maintain an air of indifference yet falls short, and each occasion where another's name impacts him more than is warranted, conveys through his silence a message of acknowledgement. I see you. I am concerned. This evokes a level of apprehension within me that I would hesitate to acknowledge. Although he does not explicitly express his affection, there is a palpable shift in the atmosphere when you are in his presence. There exists a subtle attentiveness, a presence that refrains from imposing itself, yet remains consistently evident. He does not present himself as a hero. However, he is consistently present whenever you require assistance, even in the absence of a request. He appears in moments when others are absent, remains silent during your tears, yet he perceives all that transpires. In moments when one may feel solitude, he manifests with a message, a conveyance, or a subtle gesture that, for reasons not entirely understood, possesses the ability to restore a fragment of oneself that was on the verge of being lost. It is not a mere coincidence. It is a deliberate choice. A silent choice frequently holds greater significance than a multitude of words cast into the wind. This constancy demonstrates a form of affection that transcends superficiality. He may appear to be preoccupied in different situations and may even attempt to maintain composure by feigning detachment. However, when your pain becomes apparent, he undergoes a transformation, as if compelled by a force beyond his control. The affection he experiences may be constrained by his inability to articulate it, yet it is evident through his actions. These actions, regardless of their seemingly minor nature, are characterized by a sense of surrender. He demonstrates a genuine concern for your well-being without seeking acknowledgement, praise, or validation. He desires, in some capacity, to be present during the most significant moments. That is uncommon, that is profound, that is love in its most unrefined state. Moreover, it is understood that you possess an inherent awareness of this fact, not solely due to his verbal expression, but rather because his physical demeanor, his gestures, and his timing all reveal his true intentions. It appears that he conveys his affection through his unwavering support, remaining by your side even amidst tumultuous circumstances. This form of silent love possesses a profound archetypal significance. The unseen guardian, the concealed protector. He operates discreetly in the background of your existence, managing the threads that you may not even be aware are on the verge of coming undone. This, even if never articulated, alters everything significantly. One who loves in such a manner loves with the essence of their being. Souls are incapable of deceit. There are instances when he gazes at you, and within that gaze, something is unveiled. It is not merely a superficial appearance, whether casual or inattentive, but rather a gaze that penetrates beyond the exterior, seeking to uncover the essence that lies within. Although he does not express his admiration for your appearance verbally, the intensity of your gaze when it meets his conveys a depth of feeling that surpasses the limitations of language. It appears that he is engaged in a search. It appears as though he is inquiring without uttering a word. It appears that he seeks to comprehend that which even you find difficult to articulate. It is a quiet gaze, yet it resonates powerfully within the depths of the soul. This particular form of visual connection cannot be artificially created. It cannot be feigned, simulated, or replicated with just anyone. Perhaps that is precisely the reason he occasionally averts his gaze. He harbors a certain apprehension regarding the potential consequences of prolonged observation. In that moment, it seemed as though all facades would be discarded, as if he were betraying his true self, inadvertently disclosing what he had concealed for an extended period. His gaze indicates an internal struggle between the inclination to approach and the apprehension of being uncovered. Nevertheless, in spite of his apprehension, he continues to observe, as though in watching you he has discovered a fragment of himself that has long been absent. Affection that remains unarticulated often manifests itself through the gaze. Jung posited that that which does not enter into consciousness manifests itself as fate. It is possible that this is precisely what occurs when he gazes for an extended duration and subsequently feigns that nothing transpired. He may lack the ability to articulate it, yet he possesses a profound understanding of his emotions. By observing you, he is endeavoring to confront that emotion, to comprehend it, to analyze it, to endure the turmoil that your very presence incites within him. The gaze serves as the conduit through which this love endeavors to break free from the confinement in which it has been restrained. And you perceive it, for within that gaze resides a confession, the most pristine, the most unrefined, the statement he never possessed the fortitude to articulate. Nevertheless, in spite of all that you have previously been informed, he confides his aspirations to you, not explicitly using the term we. Yet your presence is subtly interwoven within the unspoken visions of the future he quietly envisions. During his discussion regarding relocating to another city, he inadvertently references a cafe that aligns with your aesthetic preferences. He envisions a tranquil residence, removed from the tumult, and articulates a chamber adorned with expansive windows, precisely to your preference. Although he may not explicitly express a desire for your companionship, your presence is intricately interwoven into all that he envisions as tranquility. This sentiment conveys a significance that surpasses any formal proposal, as the act of including an individual in one's future, even on an unconscious level, represents a profound expression of love. Such inclusion does not occur by mere chance. When an individual harbors a fear of love yet still envisions the other person within their future aspirations, it signifies that the emotion has transcended the boundaries of rational thought. The unconscious manifests symbolically, constructing a reality in which affection may be possible, albeit obscured. It is possible that he is still in the process of comprehending his emotions. It is possible that he does not permit himself to construct the complete sentence in his mind. However, the dreams he conveys, albeit indistinct, transport you alongside them. Moreover, your presence, even in matters he has yet to encounter, signifies a profound sense of belonging. One becomes aware of this phenomenon as, although he may never articulate it explicitly, there is a palpable sense that he is including you in his journey. One does not invite an individual into one's dreams if that individual is merely another person. He refrains from discussing the future with just anyone. He is selective in determining who is included in the narrative of his life. The presence of your influence in his thoughts, plans, and unexpressed aspirations indicates that he has acknowledged your significance, even if the reasons for this recognition remain unclear to him. You have established yourself as a reference point, a reliable anchor amidst the chaos. In this tranquil presence, within this space he offers in his daydreams, love manifests itself without the need for permission. His demeanor shifts in your presence, not in a contrived or superficial manner, akin to someone seeking to make an impression, but rather in a subtly intimate fashion, as though he is unconsciously lowering his defenses. His voice becomes gentler. His body inclines gently in your direction. His gestures exhibit increased attentiveness and diminished mechanicality. His presence appears to adjust to yours, as though an unspoken understanding within him acknowledges that, in your company, a secure environment exists. This subtle shift is significant, as individuals do not lower their defenses in the absence of a connection. He is not merely present in a physical sense. He is entirely engaged, even when he attempts to maintain a neutral demeanor. This represents a profound psychological phenomenon. The unconscious responds prior to the engagement of consciousness. Carl Jung imparted the understanding that we are influenced by forces that frequently elude our ability to identify. In those moments shared with you, he is not merely performing. Rather, he is disclosing his true self, disclosing his true identity devoid of any masks or the filters he typically employs in interactions with others. He exhibits a manner of laughter that is unique to his interactions with others. He engages in silences that may be considered awkward in the presence of others. He remains present even in the absence of any apparent justification for doing so. Each of these behaviors, although not accompanied by explicit declarations, unveils a truth that transcends the limitations of language. You effectuate his transformation. This transformation is evident not only in his actions but also in the emotions he permits himself to experience. Your presence appears to momentarily penetrate the defenses he has meticulously constructed over the years. One observes him as being more buoyant, genuinely sincere, and concurrently exhibiting greater vulnerability. To love in silence necessitates a considerable degree of strength. However, permitting oneself to be influenced demands an even greater measure of courage. He permits it. It is not due to a rational decision he has made, but rather because the bond between you resonates with aspects of him that can no longer be overlooked. He may refrain from expressing it. He may never express it. However, each occasion you are present and he undergoes a change, even if it is minor, it signifies love. It is a struggle against fear, endeavoring to prevail. He genuinely attends to your words, not merely as an individual who passively receives words, but rather as one who deeply engages with the content conveyed, particularly in relation to the emotions expressed. He recollects discussions that you do not even remember taking place. He alludes to remarks you made casually, as though they have attained a revered status within him. This form of listening is neither prevalent nor coincidental. The attention in question arises from a genuine emotional connection, wherein the other individual is not merely perceived as background noise, but rather as a living presence that has been internalized. He provides his support even in moments when he appears to be preoccupied. This manner of listening frequently represents a silent expression of affection. Jung articulated that which profoundly affects us resides within our unconscious mind. That is precisely what occurs when he recalls your particulars, your narratives, and your moments of silence. You become a symbol, an emotional reference that he cannot, and perhaps does not even wish to, erase. This continual remembrance of your statements does not constitute a rational endeavor. It is an expression of spontaneous affection. He is attentive to your thoughts, your emotions, and the factors that bring you joy or induce silence. He demonstrates sufficient concern to contain it within. To contain one's feelings is a manifestation of affection. One who harbors affection in silence safeguards the memory of the other, akin to preserving a treasured secret. This attentive listening uncovers a profound insight. He seeks to comprehend your perspective. The desire to understand represents one of the most genuine expressions of love. Even in the absence of a declaration or a promise, he endeavors to understand you. Ultimately, that is more uncommon than eloquent expressions. While vocabulary may be acquired, the genuine desire to comprehend another individual and to perceive the world from their perspective is an authentic quality that cannot be feigned. He pays attention to you because your presence is significant, because within he is already aware that your voice is meant to be heard. That location, regardless of its obscurity, is where genuine emotions reside. He reveals his vulnerability, despite his attempts to conceal it. It is not a matter of grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Rather, it pertains to the subtle fissures in the protective facade he has constructed over time. A prolonged exhalation, a distant stare, a pause in his speech. The gaps in question disclose more than he could ever articulate verbally. True vulnerability is not manifested through overt exposure, but rather through the quiet trust that one places in another, even in the absence of explicit verbal affirmation of trust. It represents a risk, an invitation into the unknown that he chooses to embrace in order to attain proximity, to avoid the sensation of solitude amidst the tumult of emotions he endeavors to hide. This vulnerability is accompanied by a profound apprehension, specifically the apprehension of rejection, the lack of understanding, and the potential for emotional pain when one chooses to be open. It is a harsh paradox. He desires to express himself, yet he is apprehensive about the potential repercussions of such an action. This internal conflict results in behavior that may at times appear contradictory. He may abruptly distance himself for self-preservation. However, he tends to return shortly thereafter. What he experiences is more profound than the fear he harbors. It appears that he navigates the delicate balance between the necessity for safeguarding and the inclination to yield. Each movement in this exchange serves as a subtle indication that love exists, concealed beneath layers of insecurity. When he elects to exhibit vulnerability, even in fleeting and sporadic instances, he conveys a message that transcends the limitations of verbal expression. He is expressing that you are distinct, that you are the individual to whom he can permit those vulnerabilities to emerge. Because, at his core, he holds the belief that you will not utilize them to his detriment. The silent trust represents a rare and invaluable gift. Upon receipt, you will possess a guide to comprehending the essence of love. A love that exists without the necessity of declaration. A profound affection that manifests through the deliberate relinquishment of that which he holds most dear, his own identity. Silent affection resembles an underground river coursing beneath the tranquil exterior of the earth. It exists, it pulsates, it shapes recesses within the heart, even when it remains unseen to the hurried gaze of the world. However, for this river to emerge and transform into a stream that forges new pathways, it necessitates courage. The fortitude to confront one's apprehensions, to traverse the chasm of silence, and to enable the articulation of thoughts. Unexpressed affection is not a void. Rather, it is a latent presence, poised in anticipation of the catalyst that will unleash its expression. Fear, an unseen protector of our vulnerabilities and uncertainties, possesses the capacity to confine love within the depths of obscurity. How many affections are lost within that confinement, overlooked amidst the yearning for revelation and the reluctance to be unveiled? Nevertheless, that which remains undisclosed may commence to decay, establishing roots in uncertainty, thereby generating imperceptible fissures that only the passage of time can discern. True courage lies in the acceptance of the risk associated with surrender, the willingness to embrace the possibility of failure, and the readiness to immerse oneself in uncertainty. Silent love represents a subtle expression that yearns for acknowledgement. Thus, the inquiry emerges, resonating within the depths of one's being. Have you ever encountered a love that remained unarticulated in words? How often has silence conveyed a message more powerfully than any words ever articulated? How often has the heart comprehended what the mouth lacked the fortitude to express? These inquiries do not aim for conclusive responses. Rather, they encourage contemplation. Each answer serves as a key, unlocking inner doors where love, whether expressed or unexpressed, discovers its true significance. Permit yourself to recognize that love constitutes a delicate interplay between courage and fear, between that which we reveal and that which we conceal, between our whispered sentiments and those we choose to forsake. Do not allow silence to serve as the concluding remark. Rather, let it act as a prelude to something more significant, a concealed promise poised to unfold at the appropriate moment. Within the realm that exists between the unexpressed and the conceivable resides the potential for transformation. The ability to shed light on not only your own narrative but also the unspoken experiences of numerous other individuals. If this message resonates with you, and if these words have stirred something that has long remained inactive, we invite you to embark on this journey. Please consider liking this video as a form of acknowledgement. Please feel free to leave a comment to express your sentiments regarding unspoken love. Kindly share this so that more individuals may discover this concealed illumination, and consider subscribing to further explore this realm where silence conveys more than a multitude of words. Ultimately, genuine love does not require loud expressions to be acknowledged. It simply necessitates a profound emotional connection.